much. I'm gonna let you. Oh shoot, did I close Blue Sky without announcing? Ah, jeez. I fucked it. I can fix it. Oh shoot, is my Twitter? Okay, we're good. Hi, Circumknight! I have something very exciting to show you, Circumknight. I hope you're I hope you're ready for it. Yeah, hey guys. Today I'm gonna show you guys the Omegaverse. This is a very exciting time for us. How do I even begin to tell you guys about this realization? Talon, welcome home. Thank you to yourself for 42 months. Welcome back. I hope you've been doing amazing. Yeah, you get 2 streams in a one day. On Mondays, I'm always I don't know. I wanted to do Moby Dick Mondays, and I know I missed 2 or maybe 3 weeks so far, but we're getting back to streaming. We're doing it slowly. Hello, I am here to show you the Omegaverse, and then we will read for ourselves some Moby Dick. Let me take my usual Medikin before I forget to. I'm already sweating pheromones to send an alpha to heat. You silly. Omega's going to heat. Alpha's going to It is so funny to me. You know, for example, my Oshi Gigi Murin is confirmed to read Omegaverse fics. It's funny to me to think about the people who know about Omegaverse and people who had absolutely no idea what the hell's going on in Omegaverse worlds. What about you guys? How familiar are you guys with Omegaverse? I mean, you know VTubers, so you gotta be a little bit more informed than the average guy. You've had to have had somebody explain the Omegaverse to you at some point. Are you less enthused by my second stream because we're starting with Omegaverse? Not at all. Okay, well, do not worry. I think the trailer is going to do a good job of explaining for us. And if not, I'll answer your questions after. This is a 10-minute video. So I was looking up stuff. I was looking up shows, and I saw that the platform I was looking up on had a boys love tag, and I was like, oh hell yeah. I've never really watched the yaoi anime apart from Yuri on Ice, which is only kinda yaoi, and it's been years since then, 10 years, so the yaoi is off the charts. They might even kiss on the first episode instead of the 20th, so I gotta see. You accidentally read an Omegaverse manga! Which one? You're a tactile learner! Well, I guess I have to not you for you to understand. And I found this. Oh my god, I found this. And I'm so excited to watch it with you guys. This was released 10 months ago, so we're fresh on the scene of this show. 10 months ago, an Omegaverse boy love real action show released. And I think it's Chinese. I saw that there was a trailer, and I was like, I need to watch this with my ghostlings. Immediately, I was like, maybe I should do Moby Dick right now. I can't watch this by myself. I need to have some homies so that they can see this with me. So, needless to say, I am very excited to watch this with you. You have no clue how excited. I watched the first 5 seconds. Just the first 5 seconds, I promise you. And I was like, we have to watch this together. I will not compromise on this. How are you guys doing? How's your afternoon? I wanted to eat something for lunch that's more substantial than I've been eating, but still kind of depressed, so I just ended up eating some toast. It's always Cheetos and toast for me when my tummy's having issues, you know? 8 pie! Nice, you probably baked it yourself, didn't you, slut? Would you guys eat your own spunk out of someone else? After you jizzed in them. Would you? Could you? I think you're a coward. If you provided the glaze, you should be able to eat up the glaze. Good. I'm glad you guys are on the same page here. You know, I think if you expect people to try your product, you gotta make sure the product tastes good. You gotta try it first. Was not a great time, but she's into it. I would be super into it. Very considerate, yeah. Like, you clean it out of them. No longer do they have to do the awkward, like, legs in the air, like, go get a towel pose. That you can just clean them up right then and there in a round 2. Gotta taste the cream pie and adjust the flavor, chef. Yeah, I'll eat more pineapple next time. Guys. I always forget what is like the penultimate like supplements to have like very thick rope-like sperm. I had the list memorized at some point. So like zinc, pineapple for flavor, something C. All right. It's been 6 minutes. I think that it's appropriate time for us to start watching this together. Are you ready? Ooh, loud. The coffee. Ah, crap, can't do that. Sorry, my bad. My bad. Let me fix that. Let me start over again. We get to hear the sound of people coughing. I have to swap my 2 monitors around. Complicated. So much more complicated than I wanted it to be. Okay, there we go. Help me. I'm just a little helpless Omega. Wiping out all individuals with AB blood type. The survivors evolved into 3 distinct... Beta Omega! Enigma, yo! Hey, Skullman, nice to see you! Impregnating their partners! The world's first Omegaverse impreg drama scene! Oh no! Look at how biteable that neck is! The first, yo, bare feet. Oh. Are these all submissive and willing Omegas for this Enigma who is very, like, fertile? The pheromones, you can see it coming off them. High-end hunters usually appear as prey. We're watching an Omegaverse trailer, okay? It's an exciting time! I'm already blushing.
早在20年前就垄断了 P 国80%的主粮交易。大感染爆发后，又研发出了信息素抑制剂的全球独家专利。
这个 X 控股的前身名叫北超控股，现在当家的是北超控股老东家最小的儿子，是个私生子，听说还不到30岁。
Not even 30. He's so young. The tantalizing illegitimate. What the fuck? That was too fast for us English viewers. The tantalizing illegitimate with an angelic face but a fiendish heart versus the heir with a harsh tongue but a gentle heart. We got the ingredients here. Shut up.
挑选为信息素腺体法相药的唯一指定授权合作方。盛放愿意出资收购 HS 60%的股份。少游子，恐怕让您失望了。
爸爸病危的时候你在哪里？说话呀！
我会尽快想尽一切办法。
He touched me with his sweet Omega scent. I'm gonna be thinking about his pheromones all day.
这是我的秘书花野。陈先生，您是不是帮我交了手术费啊？
花秘书说这笔钱他会尽快还的。
谁要他尽快还了？
Yo, he's baking for him. What is that? Is that a plug?
将来和你谈恋爱。
They're kissing.
为什么是？
They're kissing on the lips. Oh my god. They're smooching, you guys. Hands. Strategically, step by step, only for love. The ultimate scheming pretty top in history. What? Look at how submissively I drink my wine.
你每天下班回家，身上都沾着屎壳郎的味道，想招我再碰碰碰。
You have to give him the claiming bite. You gotta do it.
就听说了，沈总讨厌 Omega 的事情。
花秘书还是第一个能和沈总共事的 Omega。
The first Omega.
肮脏的 Omega 气味苛求。
Omega.
臭死！
对 Omega 的身份极度不认同。
滚回去洗干净再来见我。靠毫无节制的注射一。
Oh, inhibitor injections to pretend to be a beta. Yo, all the tropes are here.
想来就来，想走就走。你把我这当什么地方？你想怎么样？
我想怎么样都行吗？
这次一感气。
Fucking scent pheromones coming off of them like waves is fucking insane. I can't do this. I can't believe I'm seeing Omegaverse live action. This should have never been live action, but also thank God it's live action. What an asshole!
我和花秘书两情相悦，不想再跟你有任何瓜葛。不如你来猜猜，第一次那晚，他在我身边哭着喊了谁的名字？
He cried my name. Yo, they're fighting with their pheromones out.
对信息素又不敏感。
Inhaler.
信息素气味全在你身上了。
Guys, I'm so sick of how inhalers are portrayed in media. Like, this isn't how asthma works. I know. It just makes them look so stinky. He's touching the part where the claiming bite would go, the back of the neck. Oh my god. Do it to your expensive monitor, I fucking dare you. He's dead. Look at the strength required to hold someone up by their arm like this.
以后谈恋爱，也别他妈找老子帮忙。
This is some intense crap. It's incredible. This is real. He's coming to claim you. Present.
不要怕，是我。我拿到了研发部门所有核心成员的名单，都给你。
我只想让你快点好起来。
你以后别再跟别人打架了。
Oh, they're kissing again!
会担心。
A deeply scheming wolf in sheep's clothing.
不喜欢身先是身上的。
Stop smelling each other. I can't do this. Hang on. Baron, welcome home to the Tears of 46 months. Is this allowed? Yeah, betas are just normal people. Like, alphas are like the tops. And in this world, there's a fourth gender, the ultra fertile enigmas. And omegas are the, you know, like subby wubby. I need to nest in my alpha's clothes. I'm so pathetic and weak, and my ass is leaking slick. Think of the camera crew sitting watching them. One of my favorite gifs is like a guy is jerking. They're recording a porn, and then the guy jerks off and comes, and he accidentally comes on the camera guy's face. Can you imagine?
盛先生，帮我吧。还有。
Scheming to the fullest, yet destiny outplays all. Are they fucking that hard? Oh, I really thought they fucking were, but he was just saving him from a bookshelf. Holy shit! The building is collapsing. Advanced soothing pheromones.
别碰我！只要是我看上的，都得是我的。
Relentlessly clingy, forced love, yaoi, ruthless tactics, long coveted desire.
你爸爸这个月的药我已经让人送到医院去了。
只要你能把肾上游的腺体割下来
Cut off, yo!
，3倍都可以。
About to break his legs in and then cut out a chunk of his neck.
想要他的命，你们算什么东西？
Oh, he's not just a subby wubby Omega. He can stand up for his alpha.
谁呀？
他呀 ，X 控股实际控制人。
老板是。
I feel like we're spoiling everything. Oh, he's an enigma.
怎么样一个表情呢？
What did he do? Telepathically send that spoon into his hand? His pheromones! They're so strong! He stinks so good!
如果我不永久标记你的话，
Of course, I have to claim you. I have to bite your neck. Only then can I save you with my advanced pheromones.
沈先生，
It's called aura. No, it's called string stimkey. Oh, fingers in the mouth. He's got him bent over.
高级就是那晚的 Omega， 你得好好把握哦，
不然有可能过度终老哦。
Getting cut to, hell yeah. We got so much going on in this fucking plot. Oh my god.
哥，你现在不是一个人了。你也
There's
得
women?
想一想
There's women in the world?
你的身份是假的，工作是假的，妹妹也是假的，到底还有什么是真的？我喜欢你是真的呀，我不需要。
Of course. You can't pull away. He smells so good. He feels so
这辈子
right.
对你负责，我会一生。
It's so funny. It's so great. Life is incredible. Ah!
全世界都不看好我和 B， 平均每个月有
What's he wearing? Garter
跟
belt.
B 都分居或离婚了。
周榴莲日报还说，最新的 Omega
撞大运遇
I can't do
上年
it. This is too much. We shouldn't be allowed. We have reached peak levels of yaoi I never thought
那又怎么
possible.
样？
I'm
重点是你
blushing.
爱他爱的要死，连孩子都生了，干嘛还要跟别人这么说？
This trailer.
如果你真的希望哄他开心的话，你可以再给他生一个，就给我生一个吧。
Impregnate you, Mr. Shay. It's the only way to make your sister happy.
怎么生？
I'm an alpha. I don't have the biology. What if we get married?
为什么不是你挑对？
APO Desire. Yo, this came out July of last year. We got to see history. Yeah, that was a 10-minute trailer. Thank you for watching it with me. It's all one show, but from watching the trailer, I feel like I don't have to watch the show anymore. I think they hit us with every single like plot twist there could have been. They just ruined it for us through the whole trailer. I got the whole experience. Oh, that's so good. Do you see this really janky pheromone inhibitor bottle? Like they straight up photoshopped this shit. It looks so bad, you guys. Thank you for enjoying that with me. Now we can read some Moby Dick after I drink some water and process what we've seen. It's actually so funny to me. Oh my god. I never thought that I would see this in a million years. Holy. Oh my god. There's no way to process this. I feel like I'm a different person than I was before I watched that trailer. Have you ever read The Divine Comedy? I actually have not read it, but I really want to since it's considered classic literature. I am not processing it. Yes, TV is dead. No. Peak cinema has always existed. Oh my god. I just can't get over that it was like the first Omegaverse Mpreg drama. This genuinely feels like shitpost territory. How is this real? Anyway, I legitimately stumbled on that like 30 minutes ago and I could not handle it. I was about to watch it and I was like, nah, I should go live. We should watch this together. This is a precious experience. I can't do this by myself. No, it's real. It's like 12 episodes. I found it first on a streaming platform and I was like, 12 episodes? What's this? Omegaverse Mpreg! That's true. All the people coming to listen to Moby Dick, all 3 of them are gonna be blasted first by my Omegaverse enjoyment. Oh my god, that was incredible. I teared up, mostly from laughter, but I teared up it was such peak cinema, as one would say. Welcome to Mpreg and Sperm Whale. God. I feel like somebody said something one time that killed me, and it was something like, imagine if instead of like ejaculating cum, you just ejaculate one giant sperm. I just think about that like all the fucking time. It's kind of hot. I imagine the head is very soft, perhaps, even though it is meant to dissolve the ovary, the womb. Get in there, get in the egg, sorry, not the ovary, to dissolve the egg layers so that I can get in there and impregnate you. I actually know, because I have a master's in biology, like, I feel like I know way more about sperm than I should. Like, the head of the sperm is connected to the acrosome, which contains carbohydrates in order to fuel the sperm as it swims towards the womb. And the little waggy part of it is called a flagella, which is a counterpoint to another similar structure in biology called cilia. Bro, I had to remember all that shit for biology 123 back in the day, and I never forgot it. Alright. Now let's read some Moby Dick. It's probably going to be a really short stream, probably only going to be like 30 minutes of reading, but I mostly just wanted to scream about that video with you guys. I did. That was amazing. How does it metabolize carbohydrates? It consumes it in the process of swimming it. I'm not exactly sure how that part works itself, other than knowing that is a storage for the energy that it needs in order to swim as fucking fast as it can. Oh yeah, yes. So it does have its own enzymes. I would assume it has its own digestive enzymes. It definitely has digestive enzymes in order to get through the wall of the egg. So maybe with the same enzymes, it's able to digest carbohydrates into usable energy. I don't know, though. Now I'm just theorizing. Oh, dude, yeah, Moby Dick has always been so long, and we're only on chapter 31 out of like 130, maybe? Mayhaps? What is Stranger Than Heaven? I've never heard of it. Okay, let's read. Here we go, Moby Dick. I have a second wind. Somebody told me it's like every time I don't stream Moby Dick, like the world becomes more illiterate, and it's my fault, so I have to. This is my duty. It's all my fault. The falling literacy rates. I missed 2 Mondays and it just plummeted. Wait, I have to get Omegaverse out of the title. Moby Dick Monday Part 6. Ta-da! There we go. No more Omegaverse in the title, even though it would have fit. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's my fault that you keep having typos recently. It's my effect on your literacy. So, Chapter 31, Queen Mab. Next morning, Stubb accosted Flask. Such a clear dream, Cream Post, I never had. You know the old man's ivory leg. Well, I dreamed he kicked me with it, and when I tried to kick back upon my soul, my little man, I kicked my leg right off. And then presto! Ahab seemed a pyramid, and I, like a blazing fool, kept kicking at it. But what was still more curious, Flask, you know how curious all dreams are. Though all this rage that I was in, I somehow seemed to be thinking to myself, that after all, it was not much of an insult, that kick from Ahab. Why, thinks I, what's the row? It's not a real leg, only a false leg, and there's a mighty difference between a living thump and a dead thump. That's what makes a blow from the hand, Flask 50 times more savage to bear than a blow from a cane. The living member, that makes the living insult, my little man, and thinks I to myself all the while, mind, while I was stubbing my silly toes against that cursed pyramid, so confoundedly contradictory was it all the while I say I was thinking to myself, what's his leg now but a cane? A whalebone cane. Yes, I thinks I. It was only a playful cudgeling. In fact, only a whaleboning that he gave me, not a base kick. Besides, thinks I. Look at it once. Why, the end of it, the foot part. What a small sort of end it is. Whereas, if a broad-footed farmer kicked me, there's a devilish broad insult. But this insult is whittled down to a point only. But now comes the greatest joke of the Dream Flask. While I was battering away at the pyramid, a sort of badger-haired old merman with a hump on his back takes me by the shoulders and slew me around. What are you about, he says. Slid, man. But I was frightened. Such a fizz. But somehow next moment I was over the fright. What am I about, says I at last, and what business is that of yours? I would like to know, Mr. Humpback, do you want to kick? By the Lord Flask, I had no sooner said that than he turned round his stern to me, bent over, and dragging up a lot of seaweed he had for a clout. What do you think I saw? Why, thunder alive, man, his stern was stuck full of marlin spikes with the points out. Says I, on second thoughts, I guess I won't kick you, old fellow. Wise Stubb, said he, wise Stubbed, and kept muttering it all the time, a sort of eating of his own gums like a chimney hag, seeing he wasn't going to stop saying over his wise Stubb, I thought I might as well fall to kicking the pyramid again, but I had only just lifted my foot for it when he roared out, "Stop that kicking! Halloa!" says I. "What's the matter now, old fellow? Look-ye here," says he, "let's argue the insult. Captain Ahab kicked he, did he?" "Yes, he did," says I, "right here it was." "Very good," says he. "He used his ivory leg, didn't he?" "Yes, he did," says I. "Well then," he says, "wise Stubb, what have you to complain of? Didn't he kick with a right good will? It wasn't a common pitch pine leg he kicked with, was it? No, you were kicked by a great man, and with a beautiful ivory leg, Stubb. It's an honor. I consider it an honor. Listen, wise Stubb. In old England, the greatest lords think it great glory to be slapped by a queen and made garter knights of. But be your boast, Stubb, that ye were kicked by old Ahab and made a wise man of. Remember what I say. Be kicked by him, account his kicks honor, and on no account kick back, for you can't help yourself, wise Stubb. Don't you see that, Pyramid?" With that, he all of a sudden seemed somehow, in some queer fashion, to swim off into the air. I snored, rolled over, and there I was in my hammock. Now, what do you think of that Dream Flask? I don't know. It seems sort of foolish to me, though. Maybe, but it's made a wise man of me, Flask. Do you see Ahab standing there, sideways looking over the stern? Well, the best thing you can do, Flask, is to let the old man alone. Never speak to him, whatever he says. Halloa, what's that he shouts? Hark! Masthead there, look sharp, all of ye. There are whales hereabouts. If you see a white one, split your lungs for him. What do you think of that now, Flask? Ain't there a small drop of something queer about that, eh? A white will. Did you mark that, man? Looky, there's something special in the wind. Stand by for it, Flask. Ahab has that bloody on his mind, but Mum, he comes this way. I love Stubbs. Can I be honest? I just imagine him as like a moe little anime girl. I don't know why, but that's my picture of Stubbs. Like, Ahab is this big, mean dude who's like, "Get the fuck away from me, I'll kick you." And Stubbs is like, I don't know, like the girl from Lucky Star. Okay. Chapter 32, Cetology. Already we are boldly launched upon the deep, but soon we shall be lost in its unshored, harborless immensities, ere that comes to pass, ere the Picard's weedy hoe rows side by side with the barnacled hose of the Leviathan. At the outset it is but well to attend to a matter almost indispensable to a thorough appreciative understanding of the more special Leviathanic revelations and allusions of all sorts which are to follow. It is some systematic exhibition of the whale in his broad genera that I would now fain put before you, yet is it no easy task. The classification of the constituents of a chaos, nothing less is here essayed. Listen to what the best and latest authorities have laid down. Yo, we're getting to biology lessons! Although this is outdated, I think. No branch of zoology is more involved as that which is entitled cytology, says Captain Scoresby, A.D. 1820. What does A.D. mean, you guys? I am not is this a time period?
It is not my intention, were it in my power, to enter into the inquiry as to the true method of dividing the cetacea into groups and families. Utter confusion exists among the historians of this animal, sperm whale, says Surgeon Beale, A.D. 1839. Unfitness to pursue our research in the unfathomable waters, impenetrable veil covering our knowledge of the cetacea, a field strewn with thorns, all these incomplete indications but serve to torture us naturalists.
Cetus means, well, Ceto is the name of a titan, but what does AD mean? Thus speak of the whale, the great Cuvier and John Hunter and Lesson, those lights of zoology and anatomy. Nevertheless, though of real knowledge there be little, yet of books there are a plenty, and so in some small degree, with cetology or the science of whales, many are the men, small and great, old and new, landsmen and seamen, who have it at large or in little, written of the whale. Run over a few the authors of the Bible, Aristotle, Pliny, Aldrovandi, Sir Thomas Browne, Gesner, Ray, Linnaeus, Redolitius, Willoughby, Green, Arcady, Sibbald, Brisson, Martin, Lacépède, Bonterre, Desmarest, Baron Cuvier, Frederick Cuvier, John Hunter, Owen, Scoresby, Beale, Bennett, J. Ross Brown, the author of Miriam Coffin, Olmsted, and the Rev. T. Chevier. But to what ultimate generalizing purpose all of these have written, the above-cited extracts will show. AD is Anno Domini, Latin for year of our Lord, or for year of our Lord, or year of the Lord. Ah, thank you. AD after Dick. After Dick from a girl who cares about you.
Of the names in this list of whale authors, only those following Owen ever saw living whales, but one of them was a real professional harpooner and whaleman. I mean Captain Scoresby. On the separate subject of the Greenland or right whale, he is the best existing authority, but Scoresby knew nothing and says nothing of the great sperm whale, compared with which the Greenland whale is almost unworthy mentioning, and here be it said that the Greenland whale is an usurper upon the throne of the seas. He is not even by any means the largest of the whales, yet owing to the long priority of his claims and the profound ignorance which, till some 70 years back, invested the then fabulous or utterly unknown sperm whale, and which ignorance to this present day still reigns in all but some few scientific retreats and whale ports, this usurpation has been every way complete. Reference to nearly all the Leviathanic allusions in the great poets of past days will satisfy you that the Greenland whale, without one rival, was to them the monarch of the seas, but the time has at last come for a new proclamation. This is Charing Cross. Hear ye, good people all, the Greenland whale is deposed, the great sperm whale now reigneth. There are only 2 books in being which at all pretend to put the living sperm whale before you, and at the same time, in the remotest degree, succeed in the attempt. Those books are Beale's and Bennett's, both in their time surgeons to English South Sea whale ships, and both exact and reliable men. The original matter touching the sperm whale to be found in their volumes is necessarily small, but so far as it goes, it is of excellent quality, though mostly confined to scientific description. As yet, however, the sperm whale, scientific or poetic, lives not complete in any literature. Far above all other hunted whales, his is an unwritten life. Now, the various species of whales need some sort of popular comprehensive classification, if only an easy outline one for the present, hereafter to be filled in all its departments by subsequent laborers. As no better man advances to take this matter in hand, I hereupon offer my own endeavors. I promise nothing complete, because any human thing supposed to be complete must for that very reason infallibly be faulty. I shall not pretend to a minute anatomical description of the various species, or, in this place at least, too much of an inscription. My object here is simply to project the draught of a systematization of cetology. I am the architect, not the builder. So you're basically like a vibe coder, but you're... You're hoping someone else will come along and do all the hard work just because you said that it needs to be done. Okay, Ishmael. 1 second.
I am honored, G Ninja. If I can make the world even a bit more literate, I have done my job.
But it is a ponderous task. No ordinary letter sorter in a post office is equal to it. To grope down into the bottom of the sea after them, to have one's hands among the unspeakable foundations, ribs, and very pelvis of this world, this is a fearful thing. What am I that I should essay to hook the nose of this Leviathan? The awful tauntings and job might well appall me. Well, he, the Leviathan, make a covenant with thee. Behold, the hope of him is vain, but I have swam through libraries and sailed through oceans. I have had to do with whales with these visible hands. I am in earnest, and I will try. There are some preliminaries to settle. First, the unsettled condition of this science of cetology is in the very vestibule, attested by the fact that in some quarters it still remains a moot point whether a whale be a fish. In his system of nature, AD 7076, Linnaeus declares, I hereby separate the whales from the fish. But of my own knowledge, I know that down to the year 1850, sharks and shad, alewives and heron, against Linnaeus's express edict, were still found dividing the possession of the same seas with the Leviathan. Linnaeus was up there with, like, Darwin when it came to logging creatures. The ground upon which Linnaeus would fain have banished the whales from the waters, he states as follows: on account of their warm bilocular hearts, their lungs, their movable eyelids, their hollow ears, penem intrentum femininem mammis lactentum, and finally ex lege naturae jure meritoque, I submitted all this to my friends Simeon Macy and Charlie Coffin of Nantucket, both messmates of mine in a certain voyage, and they united in the opinion that the reasons set forth were altogether insufficient. Charlie profanely hinted they were humbug. The local booby inspector has come to make sure everything is above board. Wow, thank you, local booby inspector. Hang on, I have something in my throat. Do you guys' like dogs also freak out whenever you sneeze and cough and stuff? My puppy's right here staring at me like I just like screamed at her or something. I would never, but she acts like it whenever I cough, like she thinks I'm dying. Be it known that, waiving all argument, I take the good old-fashioned ground that the whale is a fish and call upon holy Jonah to back me. This fundamental thing settled, the next point is, in what internal respect does a whale differ from other fish? Above, Linnaeus has given you those items, but in brief they are these: lungs and warm blood, whereas all other fish are lungless and cold-blooded. Next, how shall we define the whale by his obvious externals so as conspicuously to label him for all time to come? To be short then, a whale is a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. There you have him. There she blows. However contracted, that definition is the result of expanded meditation. Okay, Ishmael, you are not cooking here. A walrus spouts much like a whale, but the walrus is not a fish because he is amphibious. But the last term of the definition is still more cogent, as coupled with the first. Almost anyone must have noticed that all the fish familiar to landsmen have not a flat, but a vertical or up and down tail, whereas among spouting fish the tail, though it may be similarly shaped, invariably assumes a horizontal position. Weak! Whales aren't fish because they're warm-blooded animals. Strong! Whales are fish because it looks like fish. Assume a horizontal position, you say. By the above definition of what a whale is, I do by no means exclude from the Leviathanic Brotherhood any sea creature hitherto identified with the whale by the best informed Nantucketers, nor, on the other hand, link with it any fish hitherto authoritatively regarded as alien. Hence, all the smaller spouting and horizontal-tailed fish must be included in this ground plan of cetology. Now then, come the grand divisions of the entire whale host. I am aware that down to the present time, the fish-style lamantins and dugongs, pigfish and sowfish, the coffins of Nantucket, are included by many naturalists among the whales, but as these pigfish are a noisy, contemptible set, mostly lurking in the mouths of rivers and feeding on wet hay, and essentially as they do not spout, I deny their credentials as whales, and have presented them with their passports to quit the kingdom of cetology. Okay, Ishmael. You're so fucking weird and funny. I love him. I just want an autistic little sailor boy. How you doing, Inverse? First, according to Magnitude I, divide the whales into 3 primary books, subdivisible into chapters, and these shall comprehend them all, both small and large. 1. The folio whale. 2. The octaval whale. And 3. The duodecimal whale. Okay. As a type of the folio, one presents the sperm whale, of the octaval the grampus, of the duodecimal the porpoise. Folios, among these I have included the following chapters. 1. The sperm whale. 2. The right whale. 3. The finback whale. 4. The humpbacked whale. 5. The razorback whale. 6. The sulphur bottom whale. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 1, Sperm Whale. This whale, among the English of ode vaguely known as the trumpa whale, and the physeter whale, and the amble-headed whale, is the present cachalot of the French, and potsfish of the Germans, and the macrocephalus of the loanwords. Holy shit, Ishmael, you are so poetic sometimes. He is, without doubt, the largest inhabitant of the globe, and the most formidable of all whales to encounter, the most majestic in aspect, and lastly, by far the most valuable in commerce, he being the only creature from which that valuable substance spermaceti is obtained. All his peculiarities will, in many other places, be enlarged upon. It is chiefly with his name that I now have to do. Philologically considered, it is absurd. Some centuries ago, when the sperm whale was almost wholly known in his own proper individuality, and when his oil was only accidentally obtained from the stranded fish, in those days spermaceti, it would seem, was popularly supposed to be derived from a creature identical with the one then known in England as the Greenland or right whale. It was the idea also that this same spermaceti was that quickening humor of the Greenland whale, which the first syllable of the word literally expresses. In those times, also, spermaceti was exceedingly scarce, and not being used for light, but only as an ointment and medicament. It was only to be had from the druggists as you nowadays buy an ounce of rhubarb, when, as I opine, in this course of time, the true nature of spermaceti became known. Dude, he was spitting for a sec. When as I opine in the course of time, spinning on a dime, its original name was still retained by the dealers, no doubt to enhance its value by notion, so strangely significant of its scarcity, and so the appellation must at last have come to be bestowed upon the whale from which this spermaceti was really derived. Do you consider this a lecture? I consider this an insane sailor's, attempt to classify whales. Ishmael's just really passionate about whales. What do they use sperm oil for? It's rubbing a queen's head, I thought he said earlier in the book. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 2, Right Whale. In one respect, this is the most venerable of the Leviathans, being the one first regularly hunted by man. It yields the article commonly known as whalebone or baleen, and the oil specially known as whale oil, an inferior article in commerce. Among the fishermen, he is indiscriminately designated by all the following titles: the whale, the Greenland whale, the black whale, the great whale, the true whale, the right whale. There is a deal of obscurity concerning the identity of the species thus multitudinously baptized. What then is the whale which I include in the second species of my folios? It is the great Mysticetus of the English naturalists, the Greenland whale of the English whalemen, the baleen ordinaire of the French whalemen, the Groenland's whalefish of the Swedes. It is the whale which for more than 2 centuries past has been hunted by the Dutch and English in the Arctic seas. It is the whale which the American fishermen have long pursued in the Indian Ocean, on the Brazil banks, on the northwest coast, and various other parts of the world, designated by them right whale cruising grounds.
Yeah, burning to keep lights going for a long time. Ah, lamp oil. Anything else for it? Seems like that's I don't know, it just seems like a small use for something so rare. Ah, you're so right, Bot Fodder! This makes me think of Dishonored. Will Punk flavor. Is that actually what it's called, or are you, like, calling it that and now I'm gonna use it forever?
Some pretend to see a difference between the Greenland whale of the English and the right whale of the Americans, but they precisely agree in all their grand features, nor has there yet been presented a single determinate fact upon which to ground a radical distinction. It is by endless subdivisions based upon the most inconclusive differences that some departments of natural history become so repellingly intricate, the right whale will be elsewhere treated of at some length, with reference to elucidating the sperm whale.
Cosmetics, like Beetle done. Hope you enjoyed, Hathurai.
Book 1, Folio, Chapter 3, Finback. Under this head I reckon a monster which, by the various names of Finback, Tallspout, and Long John, has been seen almost in every sea, and is commonly the whale whose distant jet is so often described by passengers crossing the Atlantic in the New York packet tracks in the length he attains, and in his baleen the finback resembles the right whale, but is of a less portly girth and a lighter color, approaching to olive, like my his great lips presents a cable-like aspect formed by the twisting, slanting folds of large wrinkles, like my coochie.
Oh man, they shouldn't have made it too easy. Back to back.
The intertwisting, slanting folds of large wrinkles, you say? His grand distinguishing feature, the fin from which he derives his name, is often a conspicuous object. This fin is some 3 or 4 feet long, growing vertically from the hinder part of the back, of an angular shape, and with a very sharp-pointed end. Even if not the slightest other part of the creature be visible, this isolated fin will, at times, be seen plainly projecting from the surface. When the sea is moderately calm, and slightly marked with spherical ripples, and this gnomon-like fin stands up and casts shadow upon the wrinkled surface, it may well be supposed that the watery circle surrounding it somewhat resembles a dial, with its style and wavy hour lines grave on it. On that Ahaz dial, the shadow often goes back. The finback is not gregarious, meaning friendly, or social. He seems a whale-hater, as some men are man-haters, very shy, always going solitary, unexpectedly rising to the surface in the remotest and most sullen waters, his straight and single lofty jet rising like a tall misanthropic spear upon a barren plain, gifted with such wondrous power and velocity in swimming, as to defy all present pursuit from man. This Leviathan seems the banished and unconquerable Cain of his race, bearing for his mark that style upon his back. From having the baleen in his mouth, the finback is sometimes included with the right whale among a theoretic species denominated whalebone whales, that is, whales with baleen. Of these so-called whalebone whales, there would seem to be several varieties, most of which, however, are little known. Broad-nosed whales and beaked whales, pike-headed whales, bunched whales, underjawed whales, and rostrated whales, and the fishermen's names for a few sorts. Oh my god, he's going on about these whalebone whales, aren't they? Yaoi artist wrote this. What does that even mean? Yes, it's homoerotic. In connection with this appellative of whalebone whales, it is of great importance to mention that, however such a nomenclature may be convenient in facilitating allusions to some kind of whales.
Poppy Vinjay, welcome home. Thanks for myself for 8 months. Welcome back. Enjoying my Moby Dick?
Yet it is in vain to attempt a clear classification of the Leviathan, founded upon either his baleen or hump or fin or teeth, notwithstanding that those marked parts or features very obviously seem better adapted to afford the basis for a regular system of cetology than any other detached bodily distinctions which the whale and his kinds present. How then? The baleen, hump, back fin, and teeth, these are things whose peculiarities are indiscriminately dispersed among all sorts of whales without any regard to what may be the nature of their structure and other and more essential particulars. Thus, the sperm whale and the humpbacked whale each has a hump, but there the similitude ceases. Then this same humpbacked whale and this Greenland whale, each of these have a baleen, but there again the similitude ceases, and is just the same with the other parts above mentioned. In various sorts of whales they form such irregular combinations, or in the case of any one of them detached, such an irregular isolation, as utterly to defy all general methodization formed upon such a basis. On this rock every one of the whale naturalists have split.
Yes, Peyton, 2 streams. Holding 2 hot dogs. They're both my They're both my Moby Dick. Alright. Big stretch.
But it may be possibly be conceived that in the eternal parts of the whale in his anatomy, there at least we shall be able to hit the right classification. Nay, what thing, for example, is there in the Greenland whale's anatomy more striking than his baleen? Yet we have seen that by his baleen it is impossible correctly to classify the Greenland whale. If you descend into the bowels of the various leviathans, why there you will not find distinctions of 50th part as available to the systematizer as those external ones already enumerated. What then remains? Nothing but to take hold of the whales bodily in their entire liberal volume and boldly sort them that way. And this is the bibliographical system here adopted, and it is the only one that can possibly succeed, for it alone is practicable. Is it practicable or practicable? Practicable.
To proceed. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 4, Humpback. This whale is often seen on the northern American coast. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I do these streams on Wednesdays so it could be Humpback Moby Dick Wednesdays?
He has been frequently captured there and towed into harbor. He has a great pack on him like a peddler, or you might call him the elephant and castle whale. At any rate, the popular name for him does not sufficiently distinguish him, since the sperm whale also has a hump, though a smaller one. His oil is not very valuable. He has baleen. He is the most gamesome and light-hearted of all the whales, making more gay foam and white water generally than any other of them. Gay foam and white water, huh? Book 1, Folio, Chapter 5, The Razorback. Of this whale little is known but his name. I have seen him at a distance off Cape Horn. Of a retiring nature, he eludes both hunters and philosophers. Though no coward, he has never yet shown any part of him but his back, which rises in a long, sharp ridge. Let him go. I know little more of him, nor does anybody else. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 6, Sulphur Bottom. Another retiring gentleman with a brimstone belly, doubtless got by scraping along the Tartarian tiles in some of his profounder divings. He is seldom seen. At least, I have never seen him except in the remoter southern seas, and then always at a great distance to study his countenance. Funny to describe a whale as having a countenance. He is never chased. He would run away with rope walks of line. Prodigies are told of him. Adieu, Sulphur Bottom. I can say nothing more that is true of ye, nor can the oldest Nantucketer. Thus ends Book 1, Folio, and now begins Book 2, Octavo. Octavos. These embrace the whales of middling magnitude, among which present may be numbered 1, the grampus, 2, the blackfish, 3, the narwhal, 4, the thrasher, 5, the killer. Why this book of whales is not denominated the quarto was very plain, because while the whales of this order, though smaller than those of the former order, nevertheless retain a proportionate likeness to them in figure. Yet, the bookbinder's quarto volume in its dimensioned form does not preserve the shape of the folio volume, but the octavo volume does. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 1, Grampus. Though this fish, whose loud, sonorous breathing, or rather blowing, has furnished a proverb to landsmen, is so well known a denizen of the deep, yet is he not popularly classed among whales, but possessing all the grand distinctive features of the Leviathan. Most naturalists have recognized him for one. He is of moderate octavo size, varying from 15 to 25 feet in length, and of corresponding dimensions round the waist. He swims in herds. He is never regularly hunted, though his oil is considerable in quantity and pretty good for light. By some fishermen, his approach is regarded as promontory of the advance of the great sperm whale. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 2, Blackfish. I give the popular fishermen's names for all these fish, for generally they are the best. Where any name happens to be vague or inexpressive, I shall say so, and suggest another. I do so now touching the blackfish, so called because blackness is the rule among almost all whales. So call him the hyena whale, if you will, if you please. Okay? His veracity is well known, and from the circumstance that the inner angles of his lips are curved upwards, he carries an everlasting Mephistophelian grin on his face. This whale averages some 16 or 18 feet in length. He is found in almost all latitudes. He has a peculiar way of showing his dorsal hooked fin in swimming, which looks something like a Roman nose. When not more profitably employed, the sperm whale hunters sometimes capture the hyena whale to keep up the supply of cheap oil for domestic employment, as some frugal housekeepers, in the absence of company and quite alone by themselves, burn unsavory tallow instead of odorous wax. Though their blubber is very thin, some of these whales will yield you upwards of 30 gallons of oil. I know, I was just thinking Mephistophelian grin. I haven't seen anything described like that. I love it. The prose of this is just so wonderful. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 3, Narwhale, that is, nostril whale. Another instance of a curiously named whale, so named, I suppose, from his peculiar horn being originally mistaken for a peaked nose. The creature is some 16 feet in length, while its horns average 5 feet, though some exceed 10 and even attain to 15 feet. Strictly speaking, this horn is but a lengthened tusk growing out from the jaw in a line a little depressed from the horizontal, but it is the only one found in the sinister side, which has an ill effect, giving its owner something analogous to the aspect of a clumsy left-handed man. What precise purpose this ivory horn or lance answers, it would be hard to say. It does not seem to be used like the blade of the swordfish and billfish, though some sailors tell me that the narwhal employs it for a rake in turning over the bottom of the sea for food. Charlie Coffin said it was used for an ice piercer for the narwhal rising to the surface of the polar sea, and finding it sheeted with ice, thrusts his horn up and so breaks it. But you cannot prove either of these surmises to be correct. My own opinion is that, however, this one-sided horn may really be used by a narwhal, however that may be, it would certainly be very convenient to him for fodder in reading pamphlets. Oh, okay. The narwhal I have heard called the tusked whale, the horned whale, and the unicorn whale. He is certainly a curious example of the unicornism to be found in almost every kingdom of animated nature. From certain cloistered old authors, I have gathered that this same sea unicorn's horn was in ancient days regarded as the great antidote against poison, and as such, preparations of it brought immense prices. It was also distilled to a volatile salts for fainting ladies, the same way that the horns of the male deer are manufactured in the hearthstone. Originally, it was in itself accounted an object of great curiosity. Blackletter tells me that the Sir Martin Frobisher, on his return from that voyage, when Queen Bess did gallantly wave her jeweled hand to him from a window of Greenwich Palace, as his bold ship sailed down the Thames, when Sir Martin returned from that voyage, saith Blackletter, on bended knees he presented to her Highness a prodigious lawn horn of the narwhal, which for a long period after hung in the castle of Windsor. An Irish author avers that the Earl of Leicester, on bended knees, did likewise present to her Highness another horn, pertaining to a land beast of that unicorn nature. The narwhal has a very picturesque leopard-like look, being of a milk-white ground color dotted with round and oblong spots of black. His oil is very superior, clear and fine, but there's little of it, and he is seldom hunted. He is mostly found in circumpolar seas. The horn of the narwhal is an enlarged tooth that pierces the narwhal's own lip. Dude, that shit happens in nature all the time. Like beavers, like their teeth just grows forever until they like poke through their own fucking brain. That's why they have to chew shit all the time so that they can whittle down their teeth so their teeth doesn't get too sharp. Imagine, dude. Imagine you're too ADHD and you forget it's too sharp in your tooth too many times and you just bite through your brain. Book 2, Table, Chapter 4, Killer. Of this whale, little is precisely known to the Nantucketer, and nothing at all to the professed naturalist. From what I have seen of him at a distance, I should say that he was about the bigness of a grampus. He is very savage, a sort of Fiji fish. He sometimes takes the great folio whales by the lip and hangs them there like a leech, till the mighty brute is worried to death. The killer is never hunted. I never heard what sort of oil he has. Exception might be taken to the name bestowed upon this whale on the ground of its indistinctness, for we are all killers on land on sea, Bonapartes and sharks included. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 5, Thrasher. This gentleman is famous for his tail, which he uses for ferrule in thrashing his foes. He mounts the folio whale's back, and as he swims, he works his passage by flogging him, as some schoolmasters get along in this world by a similar process. Haha. Still, less is known of the thrasher than of the killer. Both are outlaws, even in the lawless seas. Thus ends Book 2, Octavo, and begins Book 3, Duodecimo. Killer whales hunt similar to wolves and orcas? Do they actually, like, work together in junction to, like, eat something? Orcas are fucking scary. I've seen videos of them just burst through the ice to eat, like, seals. It's fucked up. Damn, nature, you scary. Duodecimos. These include the smaller whales. 1. The Huzzapurpus. 2. The Algerine porpoise. 3. The mealy-mouthed porpoise. To those who have not chanced specially to study the subject, it may possibly seem strange that fishes not commonly exceeding 4 or 5 feet should be marshaled among whales, a word which in the popular sense always conveys an idea of hugeness. One moment. I'm kind of losing it. Like, orcas are the only natural predators of the moose. Oh, God. Happy Moby Dick Monday! I rubs my hands together. I'll just start over. I can't figure out where whales, a word which in the popular sense always conveys an idea of hugeness. But the creatures set down above as duodecimos are infallibly whales, by a term of my definition of what a whale is, i.e. a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 1, Huzzapurpus. This is the common porpoise found almost all over the globe. The name is of my own bestowal, for there are more than one sort of porpoises, and something must be done to distinguish them. I call him thus because he always swims in hilarious shoals, which upon the broad sea keep tossing themselves to heaven like caps in a 4th of July crowd. Their appearance is generally hailed with delight by the mariner. Full of fine spirits, they invariably come from the breezy billows to windward. They are the lads that always live before the wind. They are counted a lucky omen. If you yourself cannot withstand 3 cheers at beholding these vivacious fish, then heaven help ye, the spirit of godly gamesomeness is not in ye. A well-fed, plump Huzzapurpus will yield you 1 good gallon of good oil, but the fine and delicate fluid extracted from his jaws is exceedingly valuable. It is in request among jewelers and watchmakers. Sailors put it on their hones. Porpoise meat is good eating, you know. It may never have occurred to you that a porpoise spouts. Indeed, his spout is so small that it is not very readily discernible, but the next time you have a chance, watch him, and you will then see the great sperm whale himself in miniature. How do you say it? Shota. Yowie. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 2, Algerine porpoise. A pirate, very savage. He is only found, I think, in the Pacific. He is somewhat larger than the Huzza porpoise, but much of the same general make. Provoke him, and he will buckle to a shark. I have lowered for him many times, but have never yet saw him captured. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 3, Mealy-mouthed porpoise. The largest kind of porpoise and only found in the Pacific, so far as it is known. The only English name by which he has hitherto been designated is that of the fishers. Right-whale porpoise, from the circumstance that he is chiefly found in the vicinity of that folio. In shape, he differs in some degree from Huzza porpoise, being of a less rotund and jolly girth. Indeed, he is of quite a neat and gentlemanlike figure. He has no fins on his back, most other porpoises have, but he has a lovely tail and sentimental Indian eyes of a hazel hue. But his mealy mouth spoils all. Though his entire back down to his side fins is of a deep sable, yet a boundary line, distinct at the mark in a ship's hull, called the bright waist. That line streaks him from stern... Oh, is that stern or stem? From stem to stern. This is a fucking dyslexic nightmare, you guys. This is designed just to fuck me over. Stem to stern. With two separate colors, black above and white below. The white comprises part of his head and the whole of his mouth, which makes him look as if he had just escaped from a felonious visit to a meal bag, a most mean and mealy aspect. His oil is much like that of the common porpoise. Oh, thank God, we're finally done with Ishmael's biology hours. Where whales are their own classification, and these are what would fall under it, according to him. Beyond the duodecimo, this system does not proceed inasmuch as the porpoise is the smallest of the whales. Above you have all the leviathans of note, but there are a rabble of uncertain, fugitive, half-fabulous whales, which as an American whaleman I know by reputation but not personally. I shall enumerate them by their forecastle appellations, for possibly such a list may be valuable to future investigators, who may complete what I have here but begun. Okay. Vibe coder Ishmael. If any of the following whales shall hereafter be caught and marked, then he can readily be incorporated into this system according to his folio, octavio or duodecimo magnitude: the bottlenose whale, the junk whale, the pudding-headed whale, the cape whale, the leading whale, the cannon whale, the scrag whale, the coppered whale, the elephant whale, the iceberg whale, the quag whale, the blue whale, etc. From Icelandic, Dutch, and Old English authorities, there might be quoted other lists of uncertain whales, blessed with all manners of uncouth names, but I omit them as altogether obsolete, and can hardly help suspecting them for mere sounds, full of leviathanism, but signifying nothing. Finally, it was stated at the bolus. Bolus is like the word for a food that you're like chewing into a ball and swallowing. Are you thinking of bollocks? I've never heard such felonious bollocks. Finally, it was stated at the outset that this system would not be here and at once perfected. You cannot but plainly see that I have kept my word, but I now leave my cetological system standing thus unfinished, even as the great cathedral of Cologne was finished, and with the crane still standing upon the top of the uncompleted tower. Oh, I missed a reference, Conrad. For small erections may be finished by their first architects, grand ones, true ones, ever leave the copestone to posterity. God keep me from ever completing anything. This whole book is but a draught, nay, but the draught of a draught. Oh, time, strength, cash, and patience. Ishmael, you're so relatable. Can't finish a goddamn thing. Oh, please. Ishmael is as dramatic as any one of us. He is literally us. Chapter 33. The Speck Snider. Concerning the officers of the whalecraft, this seems as good a place as any to set down a little domestic peculiarity on shipboard, arising from the existence of the harpooner class of officers, a class unknown, of course, in any other marine than the whale fleet. The large importance attached to the harpooner's vocation is evinced by the fact that originally in the old Dutch fishery, 2 centuries and more ago, the command of a whale ship was not wholly lodged in the person now called the captain, but was divided between him and an officer called the specksnider. Literally, this word means fat cutter. Usage, however, in time, made it equivalent to chief harpooner. In those days, the captain's authority was restricted to the navigation and general management of the vessel, while over the whale hunting department and all its concerns, the specksnider or chief harpooner reigned supreme. In the British Greenland fishery, under the corrupted title of speckschinier, this old Dutch official is still retained, but his former dignity is sadly abridged. At present, he ranks simply as senior harpooner, and as such is but one of the captain's more inferior subalterns. Nevertheless, as upon the good conduct of the harpooners the success of a whaling voyage largely depends, and since in the American fishery he is not only an important officer in a boat, but under certain circumstances, night watches on a whaling ground, the command of the ship's deck is also his. Therefore, the grand political maxim of the sea demands that he should nominally live apart from the men before the mast, and be in some way distinguished as their professional superior, though always by them familiarly regarded as their social equal.
What do you mean? This is actually Moby Dick. Yes, Paladin Boris, we're actually reading Moby Dick.
Now the grand distinction drawn between officer and man at sea is this: the first lives aft, the last forward. The first lives aft or first lives aft? No, the first lives aft, the last forward. Hence, in whale ships and merchantmen alike, the mates have their quarters with the captain, and so too in most of the American whalers, the harpooners are lodged in the after part of the ship. That is to say, they take their meals in the captain's cabin, and sleep in a place indirectly communicating with it. Though the long period of a southern whaling voyage, by far the longest of all voyages now or ever made by man, the peculiar perils of it, and a community of interest prevailing among a company, all of whom, high or low, depend for their profits not upon fixed wages, but upon their common luck, together with their common vigilance, intrepidity, and hard work, though all these things do in some cases tend to beget a less rigorous discipline than in merchantmen generally. Yet never mind how much like an old Mesopotamian family these whalemen may, in some primitive instances, live together, for all that the punctilious externals at least of the quarter-deck are seldom materially relaxed, and in no instance done away. Indeed, many are the Nantucket ships in which you will see the skipper parading his quarter-deck with an elated grandeur not surpassed in any military navy, nay, extorting almost as much outward homage as if he wore the imperial purple and not the shabbiest of pilot cloth. And though of all men the moody captain of the Pequod was the least given to that sort of shallowest assumption, and though the only homage he ever exacted was implicit, instantaneous obedience, though he required no man to remove the shoes from his feet ere stepping upon the quarter-deck, and though there were times when, owing to peculiar circumstances connected with events hereafter to be detailed, he addressed them in unusual terms, whether of condescension or in terrorem or otherwise, yet even Captain Ahab was by no means unobservant of the paramount forms and usages of the sea. Nor, perhaps, will it fail to be eventually perceived that behind those forms and usages, as it were, he sometimes masked himself, incidentally making use of them for other and more private ends than they were legitimately intended to subserve. That certain Sultanism of his brain, which had otherwise in a good degree remained unmanifested, through those forms, that same Sultanism became incarnate in an irresistible dictatorship. For be a man's intellectual superiority what it will, it can never assume the practical available supremacy over other men, without the aid of some sort of external arts and entrenchments, always in themselves more or less paltry and base. This it is that forever keeps God's true princes of the empires from the world's hustings, and leaves the highest honor that this air can give to those men who became famous more through their infinite inferiority to the choice hidden handful of the divine inerts, than through their undoubted superiority superiority over the dead level of the mass, such large virtue lurks in the small things when extreme political superstitions invest them, that, in some royal instances, even to idiot imbecility they have imparted potency, but when, as in the case of Nicholas the Tsar, the rain crown of geographical empire encircles an imperial brain, then the plebeian herds crouch abased before the tremendous centralization, nor will the tragic dramatist who would depict mortal indomitableness in its fullest sweep and direct swing ever forget a hint, incidentally so important in his art as the one now alluded to. But Ahab, my captain, still moves before me in all his Nantucket grimness and shagginess, and in this episode touching emperors and kings, I must not conceal that I have only to do with a poor old whale hunter like him, and therefore all the outward majestical trappings and housings are denied me. Oh, Ahab, what shall be grand in thee? It must be needed to be plucked at from these skies and dived for in the deep, and featured in the unbodied air.
Alright, last chapter, you guys, and then I will go lay down. I couldn't sleep all night. I am probably slipping somewhere between depressive and mania. So like what the symptoms are, like, you know, not eating a lot and sleeplessness. You don't really have a schedule for it. So you just have to anticipate mental illness sometimes. So I'm just anticipating a crash, or I'm going to be super, super active. One or the other. Grilled Egg, welcome home. Thank you to yourself 46 months. Welcome back. Hope you've been doing well. You guys can track my mental illness based on how active I am. Is Ryu the mentally ill not there type right now, or is she the mentally ill, oh my gosh, she streamed 5 times in one day type? Yeah, it's okay. We lived through it together. We got this. I can handle each mood in its own way. I can't handle the transition very well. It always feels like terrible. I just feel dreadful and I can't sleep, and usually I wonder why, but nowadays I'm trying to learn that it's because I'm going from manic to depressed, or vice versa. But I don't know what I am right now. You know, I don't know. Move over, VTuber period trackers. It's time for VTuber mental illness trackers. The fucking screen is just green across the board.
It is noon, and Doughboy the steward, thrusting his pale loaf of bread face from the cabin scuttle, announces dinner to his lord and master, who, sitting in the lee quarter boat, has just been taking an observation of sun, and is now mutely reckoning the latitude on a smooth medallion-shaped tablet reserved for that daily purpose on the upper part of his ivory leg. From his complete inattention to the tidings, you would think that moody Ahab had not heard his menial, but presently, catching hold of the mizzen shrouds, he swings himself to deck, and in even unexhilarated voice says, "Dinner, Mr. Starbuck," disappears into the cabin. When the last echo of his sultan's step had died away, and Starbuck, the first emir, has ever reason to suppose that he is seated, then Starbuck rouses from his quietude, takes a few turns along the planks, and after a grave peep into the binnacle, says with some touch of pleasantness, "Dinner, Mr. Stubb," and descends the scuttle. The second emir lounges about the rigging a while, and then slightly shaking the main brace to see whether it will be all right with that important rope, he likewise takes up the old burden, and with a rapid "Dinner, Mr. Flask," follows after his predecessors. But the third emir, now seeing himself all alone on the quarterdeck, seems to feel relieved from some curious restraint, for, tipping all sorts of knowing winks in all sorts of directions, and kicking off his shoes, he strikes into a sharp but noiseless squall of a hornpipe right over the Grand Turk's head, and then, by a dexterous sleight, pitching his cap up into the mizzen top for a shelf, he goes down rollicking so far at least as he remains visible from the deck, reversing all other processions by bringing up the rear with music. But ere stepping into the cabin doorway below, he pauses, ships a new face altogether, and then independent, hilarious little Flask enters King Ahab's presence in the character of Abjectus, or the slave. It is not the least among the strange things bred by the intense artificialness of sea usages that while in the open air of the deck some officers will, upon provocation, bear themselves boldly and defiantly enough towards their commander. Yet 10-1, let those very officers the next moment go down to their customary dinner in that same commander's cabin, and straightway their inoffensive, not to say deprecatory and humble air towards him as he sits at the head of the table. This is marvelous, sometimes most comical. Wherefore this difference? A problem? Perhaps not. To have been Belshazzar, king of Babylon, and to have been Belshazzar not haughtily but courteously, therein certainly must have been some touch of mundane grandeur. But he who in the rightly regal and intelligent spirit presides over his own private dinner table of invited guests, that man's unchallenged power and dominion of individual influence for the time, that man's royalty of state transcends Belshazzar's, for Belshazzar was not the greatest. Who has but once dined his friends, has tasted what it is to be Caesar. It is witchery of social czarship which there is no withstanding. Now, if to this consideration you superadd the official supremacy of a shipmaster, then, by inference, you will derive the cause of that peculiarity of sea life just mentioned. Over his ivory inlaid table. I just love all his fucking ivory shit. Ishmael, LMAO even. Over his ivory inlaid table, Ahab presided like a mute-maned sea lion on the white coral beach, surrounded by his warlike but still deferential cubs. In his own proper turn, each officer waited to be served. They were as little children before Ahab, and yet in Ahab there seemed not to lurk the smallest social arrogance. With one mind, their intent eyes all fastened upon the old man's knife as he carved the chief dish down before him. I do not suppose that for the world they would have profaned that moment with the slightest observation, even upon so neutral a topic as the weather. No, and when reaching out his knife and fork between which a slice of beef was locked, Ahab thereby motioned Starbuck's place towards him. The mate received his meat as though receiving alms, and cut it tenderly, and a little started if, perchance, the knife grazed upon the plate, and chewed it noiselessly, and swallowed it, not without circumspection. For, like the coronation banquet at Frankfurt where the German emperor profoundly dines with the 7 imperial electors, so these cabin meals were somehow solemn meals, eaten in awful silence, and yet at table old Ahab forbade not conversation, only he himself was dumb. What a relief it was to choking Stubb when a rat made a sudden racket in the road below, and poor little Flask, he was the youngest son, and little boy of this weary family party. His were the shin bones, the saline beef, his would have been the drumsticks. For Flask to have presumed to help himself, this must have seemed to him tantamount to larceny in the first degree. Had he helped himself at that table, doubtless never more would he have been able to hold his head up in the honest world. Nevertheless, strange to say, Ahab never forbade him. And had Flask helped himself, chances were Ahab had never so much as noticed it. Least of all did Flask presume to help himself to butter, whether he thought the owners of the ship denied it to him on account of its clotting his clear, sunny complexion, or whether he deemed that, on so long a voyage in such marketless water, butter was at a premium, and therefore was not for him. A subaltern, however, was Flask, alas, was a butterless man. I love Flask so much. Just a little rage baiter, man. Another thing, Flask was the last person down at the dinner, and Flask is the first man up. Consider, for hereby Flask's dinner was badly jammed in point of time. Starbuck and Stubb both had the start of him, and yet they also have the privilege of lounging in the rear. If Stubb even, who is but a peg higher than Flask, happens to have but a small appetite, and soon shows symptoms of concluding his repast, then Flask must bestir himself. He will not get more than 3 mouthfuls that day, for it is against holy usage for Stubb to precede Flask to the deck. Therefore, it was that Flask once admitted in private that ever since he had arisen to the dignity of an officer, from that moment he had never known what it was to be otherwise than hungry, more or less. For what he ate, he did not so much relieve his hunger as keep it immoral in him. Peace and satisfaction, thought Flask, have forever departed from my stomach. I am an officer, but how I wish I could fish a bit of old-fashioned beef in the forecastle, as I used to when I was before the mast. There is the fruits of promotion now. There is the vanity of glory. There is the insanity of life. Besides, if it were so that any mere sailor of the Pequod had a grudge against Flask and Flask's official capacity, all that sailor had to do, in order to obtain ample vengeance, was to go aft at dinner time and get a peep at Flask through the cabin skylight, sitting silly and dumbfoundered before awful Ahab. Now Ahab and his 3 mates formed what may be called the first table in the Pequod's cabin. After the departure taking place in an inverted order to their arrival, the canvas cloth was cleared, or rather was restored to some hurried order by Pallid's steward, and then the 3 harpooners were bidden to the feast, they being its residuary legatees. They made sort of temporary servants' hall of the high and mighty cabin. In strange contrast to the hardly tolerable constraint and nameless invisible domineerings of the captain's table, was the entire carefree license and ease, the almost frantic democracy of those inferior fellows, the harpooners. While their masters, the mates, seemed afraid of the sounds of the hinges of their own jaws, the harpooners chewed their food with such a relish that there was a report to it. They dined like lords, they filled their bellies like Indian ships all day loading with spices. Such portentous appetites had Queequeg and Tachtigo that to fill out the vacancies made by the previous repast, upon the pale doughboy was fain to bring upon a great baron of salt junk, seemingly quarried out of the solid ox. And if he were not lively about it, if he did not go with a nimble hop, skip, and jump, then Tachtigo had an ungentlemanly way of accelerating him by darting a fork at his back, harpoon-wise. And once Daggoo, seized with a sudden humor, assisted Doughboy's memory by snatching him up bodily and thrusting his head into a great empty wooden trencher, which Tachtigo, knife in hand, began laying out the circle preliminary to scalping him. He was naturally... Jesus Christ. Oh gosh, shit's going down. He was naturally a very nervous, shuddering sort of fellow, this bread-faced steward, the progeny of a bankrupt baker and a hospital nurse. Shut up, pigeon crack. Fun prank. Pretend to scalp your friends for fun. Just trace the line as if you're about to scalp them with a knife. Oh god. He was naturally a very nervous, shuddering sort of little fellow, this bread-faced steward, the progeny of a bankrupt baker and a hospital nurse. And what with the standing spectacle of the black, terrific Ahab and the periodical, tumultuous visitations of these 3 savages, Doughboy's whole life was one continual lip quiver. Oh! Commonly, after seeing the harpooners furnished with all things they demanded, he would escape from their clutches into his little pantry adjoining, and fearfully peep out at them through the blinds of the door till all was over. Doughboy would clearly be an Omega. Ahab would obviously be an Alpha alongside Starbuck. I'm gonna make Flask an Omega, because he's a rage baiter. Everyone else can be... I think Ishmael would be a beta. He's just too normal of a dude. Queequeg's probably an alpha. She's lost it. You can make anything Omegaverse. That's the fun of it. It was a sight to see Queequeg seated over against Tachtigo, opposing his file teeth to the Indians. Crosswise to them, Daggoo seated on the floor, for a bench would have brought his hearse-plumed head to the low ear lines at each motion of his colossal limbs, making the low cabin framework to shake, as when an African elephant goes passenger in a ship. But for all this, he was wondering abstemious not to say dainty. He was wonderfully abstemious not to say dainty. I've actually never seen the word abstemious before. What does it mean? Can you guys look it up for me? It seemed hardly possible that by such comparatively small mouthfuls he could keep up the vitality diffused through so broad, baronial, and superb a person. But doubtless this noble savage fed strong and drank deep of the abounding element of air, and through his dilated nostrils snuffed in the sublime life of the world, he inhaled that sweet Omega pheromone. Brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant. God, dude, we can make this Omegaverse if we tried. And through his dilated nostrils snuffed in the sublime life of the worlds.
It means doesn't drink or eat stimulants, same as abstaining. Thank you. Learn something new. Abstemious. It does look like abstaining. Abstaining. I see. Cool. Not by beef or by bread are giants made or nourished, but Queequeg, he had a mortal, barbaric smack of the lip in eating, an ugly sound enough, so much so that the trembling doughboy almost looked to see whether any marks of teeth lurked in his own lean arms. And when he would hear Tashtigo singing out for him to produce himself, that his bones might be picked, the simple-witted steward all but shattered the crockery hanging around him in the pantry by his sudden fits of the palsy. Nor did the whetstone which the harpooners carried in their pockets for their lances and other weapons, and with which whetstones at dinner they would ostentatiously sharpen their knives, that grating sound did not at all tend to tranquilize poor doughboy. How could he forget that in his island days Queequeg, for one, must certainly have been guilty of some murderous convivial indiscretions? Alas, doughboy, hard fares the white waiter who waits upon cannibals. Not a napkin should he carry on his arm, but a buckler. That's incredible. In good time, though, to his great delight, the 3 salt sea warriors would rise and depart to his credulous, fable-mongering ears, all their martial bones jingling in them at every step, like Moorish scimitars in scabbards. Okay, I keep picturing, what's his name? The doorman from fucking Deadlock for Doughboy, but a whimpering, like, pathetic one, you know, not the one that sends you to the Baroness full confidence. Like, I don't know what it is. I think it's a name. I was like, Doughboy? You mean Doorman? Also, the truth is that, like, I keep calling Doorman Billboy. I don't know why. It's just, because he has a bill, I guess. It's gonna happen more. You picture Cleveland Brown? No! I see it. But though these barbarians dined in a cabin and nominally lived there, still being anything but sedentary in their habits, they were scarcely ever in it except at mealtimes, and just before sleeping time, when they passed through to it to their own peculiar quarters. Tell me you're still sleeping with Queequeg, Ishmael. Tell me you're bedfellows. In this one matter, Ahab seemed no exception to most American wall captains, who, as is said, rather inclined to the opinion that by rights the ship's cabin belongs to them, and that it is by courtesy alone that anybody else is at any time permitted there, so that in real truth the mates and harpooners of the Pequod might more properly be said to have lived out of the cabin than in it, for when they did enter it, it was something as a street odor enters a house, turning inwards for a moment, only to be turned out the next, and as a permanent thing residing in the open air, nor did they lose much hereby. In the captain was no companionship. Socially, Ahab was inaccessible. Though nominally included in the census of Christendom, he was still an alien to it. He lived in the world as the last of the grizzly bears lived in settled Missouri. Oh my goodness, Zuma! Thank you so much for raid. Welcome in. Ratling's coming in. Hello, sweet Ratlings. It's lovely to meet you. What were you up to, Zuma? Let me see. Gotta do a shout out and then Zuma. Down. Does it tell me what Zuma was doing? Arc Raiders. How is it? I actually never got into the Arc Raiders hype when it came out. I was worried that it was going to become like another Helldivers 2 for me, where people play it for a week and then leave me behind. I hope you had a great time, Zuma. Homies, please check out Zuma, our incredible, sweet rat girl who has great taste in games. Please res Zuma. Thank you so much for bringing your homies over. It's nice to meet you guys. My name is Rei Guigui, your Garu Gaisha Gooner Ghost Gamer Girl. With the double G cups, you know, GGWP. We are reading Moby Dick, and I'll read you guys another chapter, but then I'm gonna have to send you guys somewhere else. Thank you so much for sticking around. Enjoy. Seriously, Moby Dick is a wonderful book. Guys, her eyes are up there. No! Don't look at my eyes. Look at my boobs. I paid like $4,000 for these. Hey, that rules! I am about to read just one more chapter for you guys before I let you guys go, though. I'm sorry that some of you guys are coming in and I'm about to ditch you, but I'll do it for you. Moby Dick is one of my favorite books. I read it 10 years ago in high school. Isn't that crazy? 10 whole years ago. It makes me feel so old. And, you know, after a decade of not reading the book, I've clearly lost a lot of the details, and I'm rereading it now, and it's been wonderful. Hey, thank you, Zuba. You're so sweet. I love you, Zuba. Please rest up. Take care. Mwah. Oh, is that more of a boob operation? I don't know. What, you know, like, it's like, imagine if people got VTuber models the same way that like, people got, like, portraits painted of them. Yes, I did read The Great Gatsby. I do think The Great Gatsby is a wonderful book, but it's not up there for me, like, with things I would say is, like, a must-read. Like, I would say Moby Dick is a must-read. 1984 is a must-read. You know what, Great Gatsby is wonderful. I don't know if I considered A Catcher in the Rye a must-read, but it meant a lot to me when I read it in high school. Invisible Man, I think that the author is Rolf Ellison or T.S. Eliot. I get the name mixed up a lot. That was honestly a really good book that really rounded me out as a person to read. It made me consider a lot of aspects of just being alive in America that I didn't think about. Oh shit, not Animal Farm. I don't know if I recommend Grapes of Wrath nowadays. Can I be honest? Like, it's been years of reading Grapes of Wrath. I can't remember anything about it except at the end when that woman breastfeeds an old man. I'm sorry to spoil the ending of, like, the entire book of Grapes of Wrath. It all culminates in this woman feeding an old man her breast milk after she, like, loses her child, I think. So she was producing breast milk, and this old man's, like, dying, and she's just like, come here. Like, you know, I think if Homelander had a favorite book, it would be this. Oh, Fahrenheit 451. Yes, that's a definite read. My favorite author is Chuck Palahniuk, and Fight Club is my favorite book. I don't know. Maybe Moby Dick is my favorite book. But I love Fight Club. Welcome in, Von Klebo. Welcome in, Ratlings. Sweet little Ratlings. Alright, I shall finish reading this. I like the part where the guy bitching at a slot machine and a waitress insists that people sometimes win, but it's fake. It do be like that. A book that I've been planning to read for pretty much like a decade now that I have on my shelf over there is House of Leaves. I've heard incredible things about this book, and it only keeps coming up. I think because like it got popular again on like TikTok or something. But it's right there, and I just can't bring myself to read it. It's what I did read was fascinating, and it feels like an ARG. It's hard to describe, but the book itself is a very interesting format, meandering. It looks sort of like a lexicon. It's just super unique, and I've always wanted to read it, but never had a chance. Earlier on in my streaming career, I actually reached out to some authors to see if I could read their books on stream, and none of them said yes, or they never messaged me back, which is fair. Book of the Five Rings. I can probably find a PDF online. Alright. As when spring and summer had departed, that wild Logan of the woods, burying himself in the hollow of a tree, lived out the winter there, sucking his own paws, so in his inclement, howling old age, Ahab's soul, shut up in the cave trunk of his body, there fed upon the sullen paws of its gloom. The monster at the end of this book. We're reading Moby Dick. I'm just over here swinging my Moby Dick around, you know. It's a mouthful. What is it? The monster at the end of the book. I've never read this book, but it sounds horrifying. Like, even if it's a child's book, like if there's actually like a scary monster at the end of the book, ooh. That's how you like make children afraid of bugs. I don't want to turn next page. The monster might show up at any time.
we talked about whale core earlier. Like I was thinking about somebody brought it. Botfodder brought it up regarding Dishonored, which is one of my favorite video games ever. I love Dishonored. I think whale core is just a fabulous way to describe it. But I don't even remember if there is whales in a game. I remember a shit ton of rats. I remember that it gave me a fear of rats, right? So in Dishonored, like there is a morality system. If you kill everyone, then the town goes to shit, and the rats go up, and the rats will fight you and eat you and gobble up bodies like the trenches, man. It was fucked up. And if you do the run without killing a lot of people, you get like a more cleaner island. And Samuel, the guy who like is a ship guy. Fuck, I love Dishonored so much. I was gonna say another game that is absolutely will core, even though I don't think you get to hunt any wills in it, even though that's a shame, is Dredge. Dredge is a indie like fishing game. I had a great time 100%ing it on stream with you guys, or maybe I played it and then 100%ed it off stream. Dishonored is explicitly Victorian will punk. That is so cool. I want to replay Dishonored again. I love that game as a kid, but I just don't have the same drive to save and reload to do a perfect, what is it? Perfect, like, not scene run. And I don't want to do a regular, like, just fuck around and mid-ground run, right? Yeah, so maybe we can do, like, an evil fuck the town run. Kill everyone run. Nantucket, a game about hunting whales. Wow, so aptly named. You know, Moby Dick is like free territory now. Somebody should just make a whole Moby Dick game. Your favorite rats come from a nutcracker. That is fair. First words I hear, sucking his toes. That sounds like something I would say, but I don't remember it in context. Alright, one more chapter. One moment. Blowing my nose again. Okay. Chapter 35, the masthead. Whenever I do voice acting stuff, they're always telling me to drink water between like paragraphs and lines, so I'm trying to be better about that. But at the same time, I'm like, when do I'm thirsty all the time. Alright, chapter 35, the masthead. It was during the more pleasant weather that in due rotation with the other seamen, my first masthead came round. In most American whalemen, the mastheads are manned almost simultaneously with the vessels leaving her port, even though she may have 15,000 miles and more to sail ere reaching her proper cruising ground. And if, after a 3, 4, or 5 year voyage, she is drawing nigh home with anything empty in her, say, an empty vial even, I got sneeze, oh fuck. Oh god, it was one of those sneezes where you're like tearing up after. It's one of those sneezes that has wounded me grievously. I feel like people don't tear up like I do. Do you guys relate to that? I don't know what's wrong with me. Like something that happens to me a lot is that if I like yawn, I tear up like a lot. Like people have thought that I was crying sometimes because I'm like sitting in class wiping my eyes, and it is just straight up because I yawned. Vanna Freya, welcome home. Fancy Rice for 39 months. Welcome back. Hope you've been doing well. Yeah, but like I'll tear up for like a while, like I actually have to sit there for a while just brushing away like tears, and people are like, "Oh no, what's wrong? Are you okay?" I'm like, "I am. I just yawned. That's all that happened." And if after a 3, 4, or 5 years voyage she is drawing nigh home with anything empty in her, say an empty vial even, then her mastheads are kept manned to the last, and not till her skysail poles sail in among the spires of the port does she altogether relinquish the hope of capturing one more will. Now, as the business of standing mastheads ashore or afloat is a very ancient and interesting one, let us in some measure expatiate there. I take it that the earliest standers of mastheads were the old Egyptians, because in all my researches I find none prior to them. For though their progenitors, the builders of Babel, is it Babel or Babel? I'm going to say Babel, because that's like the word. The builders of Babel must doubtless by their tower have intended to rear the loftiest masthead in all Asia or Africa either, yet ere the first truck was put to it, as that great stone mass of theirs may be said to have gone by the board in the dread gale of God's wrath, therefore we cannot give these Babel builders priority over the Egyptians, and that the Egyptians were a nation of masthead standers is an assertion based upon the general belief among archaeologists that the first pyramids were founded for astronomical purposes, a theory singularly supported by the peculiar stair-like formation of all four sides of those edifices, whereby with prodigious long upliftings of their legs these old astronomers were wont to mount the apex and sing out for new stars, even as the lookouts of a modern ship sing out from a sail, or a whale just bearing in sight. In Saint Stylites, the famous Christian hermit of old times, who built him a lofty stone pillar in the desert and spent the whole latter portion of his life on its summit, hoisting his food from the ground with a tackle, in him we have a remarkable instance of a dauntless stander of mastheads, who was not to be driven from his place by fogs or frosts, rain, hail, or sleet, but valiantly facing everything out to the last, literally died at his post. Of modern standers of mastheads we have but a lifeless set, mere stone, iron, and bronze men, who, though well capable of facing out a stiff gale, are still entirely incompetent to the business of singing out upon discovering any strange sight. There is Napoleon, who upon the top of the column of Vendome stands with arms folded, some 150 feet in the air, careless now who rules the decks below. Whether lowest Philip, lowest Blank, or lowest the devil, great Washington too stands high aloft on his towering mainmast in Baltimore, and like one of Hercules' pillars, his column marks that point of human grandeur beyond which few mortals will go. Admiral Nelson, also on a capstan of gunmetal, stands his masthead in Trafalgar Square, and ever when more obscured by that London smoke, token is yet given that a hidden hero is there, for where there is smoke must be fire. But neither great Washington, nor Napoleon, nor Nelson will answer a single hail from below, however madly invoked to be befriended by their consuls, the distracted decks upon which they gaze. However, it may be surmised that their spirits penetrate through the thick haze of the future, and descry what shows and what rocks may be shunned. It may seem unwarrantable to couple in any respect the masthead standards of the land with those of the sea, but that in truth it is not so, is plainly evinced by an item by which Obed Macy, is that how you say his name? The sole historian of Nantucket stands accountable. The worthy Obed tells us that in the early time of the whale fishery, ere ships were regularly launched in the pursuit of the game, the people of that island erected lofty spars along the sea-coast, to which the lookouts ascended by means of nailed cleats, sometimes as fowls go upstairs in a hen-house. A few years ago, this same plan was adopted by the bay whalemen of New Zealand, who upon descrying the game gave notice to the ready-manned boats nigh the beach. But this custom has now become obsolete. Turn we then to the one proper masthead, that of a whale ship at sea. The three mastheads are kept manned from sunrise to sunset, the seamen taking their regular turns as to the helm, and relieving each other every 2 hours. In the serene weather of the tropics, it is exceedingly pleasant, the masthead. Nay, to a dreamy, meditative man, it is delightful. I'm just thinking about One Piece, you guys. I'm just thinking about the Going Merry. I'm still not over the Going Merry. How did they make me cry about a boat? There you stand, 100 feet above silent decks, striding along the deep, as if the masts were gigantic stilts, while beneath you and between your legs, as it were, swim the hugest monsters of the sea, even as ships once sailed between the boots of the famous Colossus at Old Rhodes. There you stand, lost in the infinite series of the sea, with nothing ruffled but the waves. The tranced ship indolently rows, the drowsy trade wind blows, everything resolves you into languor. For For the most part, in this tropic whaling life, a sublime uneventfulness invests you. You hear no news, read no gazettes. Extras with startling accounts of commonplaces never delude you into unnecessary excitements. You hear of no domestic afflictions. Bankrupt securities, fall of stocks are never troubled with the thought of what you shall have for dinner, for all of your meals for 3 years and more are snugly stowed in casks, and your bill of fare is immutable. And one of those southern whalesmen on a long 3 or 4 years voyage, as often happens, the sum of the various hours you spend at the masthead would amount to several entire months, and it is much to be deplored that the place to which you devote so considerable a portion of the whole term of your natural life should be so sadly destitute of anything approaching to a cozy inhabitiveness, or adapted to breed a comfortable localness of feeling, such as pertains to a bed, a hammock, a hearse, a sentry box, a pulpit, a coach, or any other of those small and snug contrivances in which men temporarily isolate themselves. Your most usual point of perch is the head of the how do I even say this? Is the head of the Tagalant mass. This feels so wrong. Honestly, this whole time here, I am just like, do they really not bring like any whores onto the ship to fuck? Is that too rude to ask? I just feel like that's a simple human need, and that there should be a whole like class of prostitutes that you pay that will accompany you on your ship, that you feed, and that will fuck you. I don't know. Is that too crazy? Quit, run, Ishmael! Shut up, Pigeon Man! I love that you didn't even say Ishmael brought Queequeg. Yeah, where are the harlots? Your most unusual point of perch is the head of the I can't do this. Of the gallant mast. I hate this word. Gallant mast. Of the gallant mast, where you stand upon 2 thin parallel sticks, almost peculiar to whalemen, called the gallant. I'm gonna fuck this up every time, guys. The gallant cross trees. Here, I hope that's the last time they ever use that word. Here, tossed about by the sea, the beginner feels about as cozy as he would standing on a bow's horns. To be sure, in cold weather, you may carry your house aloft with you, in the shape of a watch coat, but properly speaking, the thickest watch coat is no more of a house than the unclad body, for as the soul is glued inside of its fleshy tabernacle, and cannot freely move about in it, nor even move out of it, without running a great risk of perishing, like an ignorant pilgrim crossing the snowy Alps in winter, like me jumping through the fucking mountains in Skyrim just to get to my destination and getting my shit wrecked by like a Yeti or some shit. I'll never forget that. This is a core experience for little Ryu. It's just me beelining through the mountains like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make it to that town right through the mountains. And then it wasn't even a dragon that got me. Or maybe it was, but like some fucking Yeti. So, a watch coat is not as much of a house as it is a mere envelope, or an additional skin encasing you. You cannot put a shelf or chest of drawers in your body, and no more can you make a convenient closet of your watch coat. Concerning all this, it is much to be deplored that the mastheads of a southern whale ship are unprovided with those enviable little tents or pulpits called crow's nests, in which the lookouts of a Greenland whaler are protected from the inclement weather of the frozen seas. In the fireside narrative of Captain Sleet, entitled A Voyage Among the Icebergs, in quest of the Greenland whale, and incidentally for the rediscovery of the lost Icelandic colonies of Old Greenland. That's a mouthful. In this admirable volume, all standers of the mastheads are furnished with a charmingly circumstantial account of the then recently invented crow's nest of the glacier, which was the name of Captain Sleet's good craft. He called it the Sleet's crow's nest in honor of himself, he being the original inventor and patentee, and free from all ridiculous false delicacy, and holding that if we call our own children after our own names, we fathers being the original inventors and patentees, so likewise should we denominate after ourselves any other apparatus we may beget. That's why I named it Ryu's Bailey expansion mod when I made it. This mod for Degrees of Lunacy is my baby. In shape, the Sleet's crow's nest is something like a large tierce pipe. It is open above, however, where it is furnished with a movable side screen to keep to windward of your head in a hard gale. Being fixed on the summit of the mast, you ascend into it through a little trap hatch in the bottom. On the after side, or side next to the stern of the ship, it is a comfortable seat with a locker underneath for umbrellas, comforters, and coats. In front is a leather rack in which to keep your speaking trumpet, pipe, telescope, and other nautical conveniences. When Captain Sleet in person stood his masthead in this crow's nest of his, he tells us that he always had a rifle with him, also fixed in a rack, together with a powder flask and a shot, for the purpose of popping off the stray narwhals or vagrant sea unicorns infesting those waters, for you cannot successfully shoot at them from the deck owing to the resistance of the water, but to shoot down upon them is a very different thing. Now, it was plainly a labor of love for Captain Sleet to describe as he does all the little detailed conveniences of his little crow's nest, but though he so enlarges upon many of these, and though he treats us to a very scientific account of his experiments in this crow's nest, with a small compass he kept there for the purpose of counteracting the errors resulting from what is called the local attraction of all binnacle magnets, an error ascribable to the horizontal vicinity of the iron in the ship's planks and in the glacier's case, perhaps there having been so many broken down blacksmiths among her crew, I say, that though the captain is very discreet and scientific here, yet for all his learned binnacle deviations, azimuth, compass observations, and approximate errors, he knows very well, Captain Sleet, that he was not so much immersed in these profound magnetic meditations as to fail being attracted occasionally towards one well-replenished little case bottle so nicely tucked in one side of the crow's nest within easy reach of his hand, though upon the whole I greatly admire and even love the brave, the honest, and learned captain, yet I take it very ill of him that he should so utterly ignore that case bottle, seeing what a faithful friend and comforter it must have been, while with mittened fingers and hooded head he was studying the mathematics aloft there in that bird's nest within 3 or 4 perches of the pole. But if we southern whale fishers are not so snugly housed aloft as Captain Sleet and his Greenland men were, yet that disadvantage is greatly counterbalanced by the widely contrasting serenity of those seductive seas in which we south fishers mostly float. For once, I used to lounge up the rigging very leisurely, resting in the top to have a chat with Queequeg, of course, your lover, or anyone else off duty whom I might find over there, then ascending a little way further and throwing a lazy leg over the top yard, take a preliminary view of the watery pastures, and so at last mount to my ultimate destination. Let me make a clean breast of it here, and frankly admit that I kept but sorry guard. With the problem of the universe revolving in me, how could I, being left completely to myself in such a thought-engendering altitude, how could I but lightly hold my obligations to observe all whale ships' standing orders, keep your weather eye open, and sing out every time? And let me in this place movingly admonish you, ye ship owners of Nantucket, beware of enlisting in your vigilante fisheries any lad with lean brow and hollow eye, given to unseasonable vegetativeness, and who offers to ship with a Phaedon instead of Bowditch in his head. Beware of such an one, I say. Your whales must be seen before they can be killed, and this sunken-eyed young Platonist will tow you 10 wakes round the world, and never make you 1 pint of sperm the richer. Okay. Nor are these monitions at all unneeded, for nowadays the whale fishery furnishes an asylum for many romantic, melancholy, and absent-minded young men, disgusted with the carking cares of earth, and seeking sentiment in tar and blubber. Childe Harold not unfrequently perches himself upon the masthead of some luckless, disappointed whale ship, and in moody phrase ejaculates, "Row on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, row! 10,000 blubber hunters sweep over thee in vain." Ejaculates. Very often do the captains of such ships take those absent-minded young philosophers to task, upbraiding them with not feeling sufficient interest in a voyage, half hinting that they are so hopelessly lost to all honorable ambition, as that in their secret souls they would rather not see whales than otherwise, but all in vain. Those poor Platonists have a notion that their vision is imperfect. They are short-sighted. What use, then, to strain their visual nerve? They have left their opera glasses at home. "Why, thou monkey," said a harpooner to one of those lads, "we've been cruising now hard upon 3 years, and thou hast not raised a whale yet. Whales are scarce as hen's teeth whenever thou art up there." Perhaps they were, or perhaps there might have been shows of them in the far horizon, but lulled into such an opium-like listlessness of vacant, unconscious reverie is this absent-minded youth by the blending cadence of waves with thoughts, that at last he loses his identity, takes the mystic ocean at his feet for the visible image of that deep, blue, bottomless soul, pervading mankind and nature, and every strange, half-seen, gliding, beautiful thing that eludes him, every dimly discovered, uprising fin of some undiscernible form seems to him the embodiment of those elusive thoughts that only people the soul by continually flitting through it. In this enchanted mood, thy spirit ebbs away to whence it came, becomes diffused through time and space, like Cranmer's sprinkled pantheistic ashes, forming at last a part of every shore the round globe over. There is no life in thee now, except that rocking life imparted by a gently rolling ship, by her borrowed from the sea, by the sea, from the inscrutable tides of God. But while they sleep, this dream is on ye. Move your feet or hand an inch, slip your hold at all, and your identity comes back in horror. Over Discardian vortices you hover, and perhaps at midday in the fairest weather, with one half-throttled shriek, you drop through that transparent air into the summer sea, no more to rise forever. Heed it well, ye pantheists. Enter Ahab, then all. Oh my god, why is it like a fucking, script? Like a play. Alright guys, thank you guys so much for joining me today for both Sifu earlier, as well as Omegaverse and Moby Dick now. I am exhausted actually. So, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had a lot of fun. If any of my Jazz Girlies are on, can you let me know so I can read them? If not, I'm going to do the usual promo, and then I'm going to find someone for us to raid. Stick around for the raid, you get channel points, but you just get to meet a whole new homie, and it's always fun. Thank you! I love hanging out with you guys. Come to the Discord, come to the YouTube, come to the Twitter. You're already on the Twitch, so I don't have to type that out like I sometimes do for no reason. And let's go see who we're gonna raid today. Oh, she. It's gonna be the day that they're gonna. Oh, Jinkitsu! It's in so long! Jinkitsu is in, completely different model than usual. Jinkitsu is a sweet girl, incredible fighting game player. Right now, she's playing Metroid Fusion! Yo! You guys are hanging out with Jinkitsu. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I love you guys. I hope you sleep tight and have a good day and a good night. And take care of yourself. Enjoy watching Metroid Fusion. Let's see. Base Jinkitsu. Rave. Let's see. Raid. Alright, you guys. Have fun. Counting you down. 10, 9. Grab the raid message. 8, 7. I love you. Take care. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ghost night, Jenny! Just in time for an ad break that was going to sneak up on ya. Bye-bye. Take the raid message. Take it. Copy it right now. Boom!